News Network, and I'm here with Brady Fletcher, the Managing Director of the TSX Venture. Brady, how has PDAC treated you so far?
Thanks, Olivia. It's good to be here. PDAC this year is actually really exciting. I think when we were here last year, you really saw the number of people who were showing up and the energy that was going on, and you could really sense a resurgence in the mining space. This year, we had $6.1 billion raised on venture last year. 52% of that was actually in the mining space. And so you're really starting to see, that excitement from last year carry over to this year, where people are turning drill bits, and the number of people who are here in attendance talking about what's happened to their companies in the last year. So It's really exciting.
It's funny, I was just about to ask you, how are you feeling about the resource space as a whole right now?
When you think about the resource space, and especially when you walk around here, I think that we're just at the early phases of this run, because our average financing size last year was about $3 million. This year it's up to about $4 million, so people have more capital to put to work. I also think that we're early days in the diversified metals play, because you see Apple making announcements about them having to source cobalt. You look at the amount of copper that's required for an electric vehicle. All of these metals have to come from somewhere, and 50% of all mining finance globally comes from us here in Canada on the TSX and TSX Venture. I was also down at Polycon, and I was looking at all of the guys who are in cryptocurrency and the big trends behind that, and everything that they're talking about is the same thing that has attracted the gold bugs over the years. And so some of those same fundamental principles are playing in, and I think we're seeing that excitement out here today as well.
Okay. And I know resource stocks are a big part of the TSXV, but with that being said, there are a lot of companies that are in other sectors that are also part of that. So Where are you personally seeing the most growth right now?
Interesting question, and we have focused a lot on how do we expand and diversify our stock list. By number, we're still probably 60% weighted to the mining space, and as I mentioned before, over half the financing activity last year went into the mining space. And so I think that we will continue to see that growth, and especially if the demand for diversified metals continues to grow the way that we're seeing. That being said, we're the world's preeminent growth stage capital formation platform. There's nothing like us out there, and in terms of how we have capital pool companies or vehicles that allow a company to efficiently get access to that public venture capital, use that share currency to raise additional capital, to grow, and use that share currency to make acquisitions. And so we've enabled companies like Canopy Growth to get up, and in the last 3 years, they've gone from being a small CPC into a $6 billion publicly listed company and a TSX index constituent. And that's what we're really here to do. Mm-hmm. So when you think about where some of those other trends are coming in, it's in the blockchain space. Mm-hmm. And I'm long-term blockchain technology bullish, and I think that application is going to be important. We're looking at what's going on in life sciences and marijuana, and that's not just a Canadian trade, that's international. And so that as we see various geographies start to legalize in varying ways, I think the Canadian companies have the best access to capital. They have the scale to be able to have those international discussions, and then they have the science behind them to be able to negotiate with governments as well. So I think across the entire stock list, from technology through life sciences through mining, we're seeing a lot of really healthy indications right now.
Okay. And on the note of cannabis, they're saying that many cannabis and blockchain companies are considered risky right now. So what is the TSXV doing to educate investors and kind of keep a standard protocol going among these companies?
It's kind of a funny question. What's riskier? Is it the stake of property that somebody maps out in South America, or is it somebody who's developing a technology in their parents' basement? I think at the end of the day, it really does come down to disclosure, and that's where we, as the exchange, focus. I've got 65 people across the country in my listings and my compliance team that focus daily on how do we hold companies to a level of integrity. How do we make sure that they're communicating what their business plan is, whether it's a blockchain company, a marijuana company, or a mining company? How do we make sure that continuous disclosure obligations are met? And how do we make sure that we're able to ensure the investing public knows what they're looking at? And so we do full background checks on management teams that list with us. We do have initial listing requirements that are tailored to each specific industry, and all of those pieces allow us to maintain the integrity that brings global pools of capital to the venture exchange to finance these and grow these companies.
Okay, so a lot of it kind of circulates back to kind of open communication and kind of keeping your eye on everything.
Totally.
Okay. Yep. Now, there's been some talk as well that these blockchain and cannabis companies are actually overshadowing mining companies right now. Do you feel that that's the case?
I think I hear that a lot. Blockchain and marijuana are definitely taking the headlines. all you need to do is look at the mining financing activity last year, and the reality is that it's still over half of our business, just on venture alone, right? And the piece I think people lose sight of a little bit is that when we're bringing capital into the markets, whatever company it comes into, that capital then starts looking at other opportunities. So marijuana, blockchain, they've activated new pools of capital, both from the US and the millennial generation, and those new pools of capital are coming to the venture exchange and looking at, how do we play other companies that are growing, that are using this framework to expand, to become global players. And that I think is really exciting, but positive for all companies that are listed with us. We've got 1,654 listed companies that represent over $55 billion in market valuation. And when that capital comes to our market, it looks at everything.
Okay. And I guess just to wrap things up, are there any dark horse commodities that you see taking the market by surprise as a success this year?
Dark horse commodities?
Yeah.
I'd actually come back to the blockchain and marijuana discussion for a second, and even electric vehicles. I'm not a CFA. I'm not here to give investment advice, but when you look at the energy consumption that those industries require, whether it's for marijuana grow ops or for hashing with blockchain or for charging electric vehicles, we need new sources of energy. And so I think the energy metals should have a positive year coming into 2018, 2019, or as those industries continue to evolve.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us, Brady, and I hope you enjoy the rest of PDAC.
Thanks, Olivia.
Yep, and this has been Investing News Network. We're here live at PDAC 2018.